time the rules and I will record it. So today we have a wonderful, interesting company, Escape. And as I said, it's great in many respects, including because it's the most popular company in the early track, which is great, but at the same time, kind of hope that you will be more balanced in your choices. Second, the company is headquartered in the town where I grew up. And so I spent my formative years there, even though I left it pretty young, but still that's where I grew up, like literally a few minutes away from, I assume, their offices. It's the second webinar with the company. So we had the first one, which was focused on introducing the company, and it was all about the company, talking about the product. They actually showed us the products, about the history of the company, marketing strategy they use, and so on. The plan for the second webinar is to give you, the students who have been working on their challenge, an opportunity to share what you have so far and get feedback. And so here is my time to ask you the question. So how many of you are from the early track? So how many of you have been working on this challenge for a few weeks and have something that you would like to share with the company and get feedback? You have a button at the bottom of the screen that says raise hand, like it literally looks like a raised hand. Press that button, and this way I will know how many of you have been working on this challenge for a while. So do we have anyone from the early track? So we have Toko, all right, wonderful. Anyone else? Only one student, okay, all right. Well, we have Nicola, okay, so we have a few. So Toko, Nicola, if anyone else is from the early track, if you guys would like to share with the company what you have so far, which I hope you do, just raise your hand right after the quick introduction of the company, and we will switch your role to the presenter. You will be here with us, and you will be able to talk to the company directly. So this way you will be able to gain or get an advantage over other teams by being able to present your work and get directly feedback from the client. Now, those of you who are from the late track, so those of you who have been placed on teams like literally in the past 2 days, raise your hand. Do we have anyone here? Okay, so we have Diane, I see. Okay, oh, we have quite a few. Yes, that's what I suspected. So we have quite a few people from the late track. So for you, we will have a quick introduction of the company. So this way you know a little bit more about them if you haven't had a chance to watch the first webinar. And then again, if you will have any questions during the presentation, if you would like to learn something new about the company, again, this is your chance. And so at the same time, I also have the submissions from the early track, and maybe I'll also float some most common suggestions and ideas and ask for some generic feedback. So we'll do that as well. And obviously, if you would like to ask questions, you have the Q&A button. So just click on Q&A, and this way we will see your questions, or just type them in the comments. And so this way we will be able to also answer those questions quickly and efficiently. All right, after this long introduction, I think we will turn it to the company, and we'll ask them to maybe one more time summarize what the company does and talk a little bit about the history and the products. All right?
Yeah. Hello, everyone. Thank you once more for participating, for working with our company. It's a big pleasure. I will try to be as brief as possible, not to take a long time. So the story is that near 10 years ago, girls started to produce different type of clothes. It was like custom dresses, bespoke suits, all clothes was custom. And near 3 years ago, they started some kind of test project. It was a small raincoat that could be like packed into small how to say, the small pocket, like small bag. You could like put it together into the pocket of this coat, so it would be like minimum size. You can put it into your bag and just walk to the town. And in case of rain, you will pack it up, unpack, make it bigger, and just put it on, so you'll be protected from the rain. And after some seasons, a different type of coat was produced, like autumn coat. Another type of coat was created, winter coats. So for each season, different like next raincoat with another purpose was produced. The amount of items each time is limited because it was limited by people who was working on it. because each item is made basically, it is handmade, made manually, and from each year, each season, different things were upgraded. First of all, it was like yeah, the fabric, different colors, different style, different properties of this fabric. Each time it was better and better. And as you might understand, the raincoat itself contains, except fabric, all these small things, the zipper, this fabric inside, right, different type of insulation. And in the end, currently we have, you can check it out. This is the current version. This is a winter jacket, right? It has different
many pockets.
Pockets, right? Thank you. Many different pockets in different places. Yeah, inside, outside, different zippers, different items to customize, on your
Figure.
your figure, your body. This is our current main item. There are also like summer raincoats. It will be new for new season. We will have new collection. This is, and currently we have fabric produced in China, special for us. Now we are ordering big enough amount to be able to choose the color, and what we do, we are trying to get the best parts from different parts of the world, to add some special design, to test by ourselves different things, make it not only feel good but also look good, and to create better usability of the final things. This is it. And
last time you said that you are very selective or very particular about the quality of the fabrics, that you use some special, I can't remember the names, but you take it very seriously and you would not compromise the quality of the materials. Can you tell a little bit more about how you select it? You said it has to breathe, but at the same time cannot let the water through.
Yeah, we use breathable, waterproof fabric. It's membrane fabric. And about the insulation, also we use. It's very warm and it.
Hello, nice to meet you.
Hello, hi.
Hello.
I really want to know what kind of new markets the company can reach.
Oh, you jump right into. All right, okay. All right, well, go ahead with your question, Carlos. Carlos had a question. I added him to the panel, but apparently he hasn't good connection. Well, anyway, go ahead with your question, Carlos, please. And I think we lost him. Okay. All right, well, let's finish up with the fabric and then we'll go back to Carlos.
As for insulation, it's also is waterproof, so you will not be wet if it's will be rainy weather or snowy too much. So now we pay attention so that the fabric should be breathable and waterproofable.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so. And another important aspect that each item is tested, manually after the final production. So some person is going to look the detail on the stuff. So we will be sure that it's a good quality without any any bugs or something. So this is also very important.
All right, so we have some questions. Gergely, you had a question, and I thought it would be better if you ask it directly. So please go ahead.
Yeah, hello Tim. First of all, I find your product really interesting, so I hope you will have success in the future. I have two questions. One of them is, would you consider expanding to the Netherlands, a new market? I know that you have some sales there already, but I'm not sure how established your market is, or how big the volume of sales is in the Netherlands? And my second question is, could you give us some estimations about your annual sales, for example, from the last year, and the growth of sales from year to year?
I will only say that some companies are not always comfortable answering the financial questions. So if you would like to share those numbers, great, and everybody will appreciate it. But if it constitutes some sort of a commercial, secret, that's perfectly fine. You can just give some general indication. Mm-hmm. So whichever works for you.
I will talk a little bit about production, and after this, we'll make a brief review of our current marketing and sales strategy. So now we are able to produce for 450 we sold. Okay, we sold this. Yeah, this winter. Okay. Near 500 items, and this is also one of the issues that it's not easy to scale production. When you're trying to pay attention for each item, you need to be very careful when you're trying to scale. You can scale 10-20%, but it's hard to scale 500% to produce 5 times more. So there is the first thing, and second, our current selling strategy is most clients buying our raincoats from our website. We are making marketing in social networks like Facebook and Instagram, and also we are represented in Kyiv. This is the capital of Ukraine, in offline stores. We are also trying to take part in offline fairs when different manufacturers selling their products. It's about maybe twice a year in Kyiv. Basically, that's it. In other countries, it's not easy for us to sell because of different issues with taxes, with money transfer. There is still no PayPal in Ukraine, so it's the easiest way is to get orders. And when some of our friends travel into Amsterdam to pick up 5 our raincoats and just to deliver to some buyers, to clients, but it's not the way you do business. It's just single sales. Mm-hmm. So one of our issues is to logistic problems, how to deliver our items, and also how to get money back.
So if I may add to that, it's very important. So we have 2 issues here. One, obviously the size and scalability. And so last time we did ask the company whether or not they will be able to scale up the business if a large order comes along, and it may take some time, but they should be able to fulfill it. But the bigger question here is we have a product at a fairly competitive price, great quality, and the company that can make it. One of the challenges they run into is that they have customers who would like to buy the product, but it's not always easy to ship and pay for the product. And so one of the biggest challenges for the company now essentially is logistics and finance. And so if you guys, the students, can pay more attention to this aspect and provide some suggestions as to how this company can do this business, internationally, that would be huge help. Because again, it's a paradox. You have a company that has a product, you have customers that would like to buy the product, everybody likes the price, but the friction comes not from the fact that customers don't know about the product. The friction comes from the customers not being able to easily, or the manufacturers have no easy way to accept the payments from overseas. Likewise, to ship their products in large quantities overseas. I have no doubt that there are ways to do it from Ukraine. In fact, I'm 100% confident there are ways to do it, but the company is not familiar with those ways. And so that's where you guys come along. So maybe you have some experience here, maybe you will do some research here. Maybe tomorrow you will have your own company in whichever country you are, and you will face those same problems. So now it is your opportunity to try to research it so that when you face it as an entrepreneur, not as a consultant, you know the answers. Gabriel, you had a question. Would you like to unmute your microphone and ask it?
I think I've already asked my 2 questions, but actually I have a third one.
Oh, go ahead. Yes. we
Yeah,
have.
so I've read that there's a free trade agreement between Ukraine and the European Union. I'm not sure if you could confirm that it actually means that you have no burdens whatsoever according to the European Union. I'm not sure how. Probably you know this better. So can you please share how it works?
I know a little bit about it, but let's see. Do you guys know much about the free trade agreement with the European Union?
Not much. I believe it's mostly connected with taxes, but taxes is not our issues or some trade limitations. Yeah, our biggest issues the cost of logistics to the client, how we will deliver, and as was mentioned, how to get money from client. So it's not problem to is there is we are allowed to sell our items, I would say so, because of this trade agreement. But it's not solving our issue with another things, two things.
And one more question: if European Union needs some certificates for our product to be sold there.
I did some research on this topic, and it's kind of a two-sided sword. On the one hand, yes, Ukraine has, and in fact has had for over a year now, the free trade agreement with the European Union. So there are no import tariffs, meaning that if you would like to send the product, you can just send it and sell it. But at the same time, there are two remaining issues. One, there is something that is called administrative delays. It's the same issue between Canada, for example, and the United States, even though they do have a free trade agreement, NAFTA, North American Free Trade Agreement. You still have to go through some paperwork, and sometimes it takes time. Second, just like Canada and the United States, Ukraine and the European Union, you have the issue of money. So you have to change the currencies. The payment systems do not always work in all countries. So for example, here in the United States, if we would like to receive some money, I just go to my bank, get a special account that allows me to accept credit card payments, and that's it. With Ukraine, it's a little bit stranger. So for some reason, not all of the systems work. And if you simply wanted to get a credit card payment online, it's not as easy as it may look. And so all of a sudden you have this strange situation where Ukrainians, for example, can make payments from Ukraine, for example, using PayPal or using credit cards, but they cannot accept PayPal payments or credit card payments into Ukraine. And the reason I know that is because we have some services that we purchase in Ukraine, IT services. And literally it is strange. So we cannot pay them. So what we do is either we make a private payment via Western Union, or some of those companies literally have a shell company set up somewhere in Europe, like in Estonia, for example, purely for the purpose of being able to accept payments from the global clients. Very inconvenient, but it's an interesting area. And so if you can guys research a little bit more about that, not only will you learn something more about it, but also hopefully will be able to help this company. Because it's the same issue with many other countries. They have a product, they have a good price, somebody else wants to buy it, and then boom, you cannot really pay. It's like, almost easier to just send the cash in an envelope. But obviously that's not the way to do business. So yes, a free trade zone, but at the same time, not as, frictionless as we would like it to be.
Can I ask a question which is connected to this issue?
Yes, go ahead. We had Gabriel here, but he dropped out. We'll reconnect him again in a minute. But yes, please go ahead.
Okay, so I saw your web shop, and it actually accepts orders now internationally. I saw that shipping costs are quite high, but actually I could order a coat to Canada as well. So how do you accept money now through your website if there is no PayPal so what system are you using right now?
It's like Western Union, something like that.
Okay, thank you.
The system that I found to be most useful at this time, and that's how we work with Ukraine and a few other countries. Those of you who don't know, we have a new program that we launched a few months ago. We call it XCulture Kids. It's basically the same XCulture project that you guys are participating in, but for children. And so we have about 100 kids this semester. They are 9 to 17 years old. And unlike students, you who are enrolled in the project by your professors, XCulture Kids, parents have to sign up kids. And we do have a payment, so it's kind of semi-voluntary, so those who can't pay don't have to pay, but those who can, we do need the cash to operate the program. And so one of the problems we ran into is the recruitment. How do you make those recruitments? And so I hired about 40 people in cities all around the planet, and their job was to literally go school to school and talk about the program. And then the time came to make payments, and all of a sudden, as we said, not everyone can accept credit card payments, not every bank can accept checks. And so one system that we found that actually seems to be global, works very well. In fact, last year, this company became a unicorn, meaning that the market valuations are over $1 billion on this company. And the name of the company is Payoneer. So it's like Pioneer, but with pay in it, Payoneer. And so they charge only about 1% transfer fee, which is like 1/5 of what Western Union charges. They seem to work everywhere. At least at this time, we haven't found a country where it doesn't work. And so that may be a way to go. So it does allow payments into Ukraine. It allows payments in foreign currencies. So if you would like to get them in dollars, you get them in dollars. And so it's a brand new company, has been around only for a few years. As I said, reached the unicorn status last year. And so this may be a solution. So those of you who are writing a proposal for this company, you might want to take a closer look at Payoneer. They seem, at least they work for us. As I said, that's the company that we now use, because even PayPal doesn't work everywhere. All right, Carlos, are you going to ask your question now? Are you connected? Please go ahead.
Meanwhile, we have a question from the chat.
Yes, yeah. If you would like to read that, yeah, go ahead.
The question was.
Oh, it seems like Carlos is back here. Yes, Carlos, go ahead.
Yes, my connection is really bad. He's oscillating all the time. I'm really asking what kind of channel of marketing they really want to use to go to another consumes. If they use a channel like another sales, if they want to establish your own stores, how they want to go to another country.
So entry mode, right? And we have here Gabriel. I think he had the same question. Gabriel was asking about joint ventures. His question was, what do you think about doing a joint venture, and if you're willing to do it? So yes, what's your preference? Are you willing to establish some permanent presence overseas, or you are only interested in exporting directly to the customers?
It's the same. It's the same question about efforts. So in theory, we can establish offline store in another country, but we need to solve issues with logistics and money. First two issues. So it would be not depend on type of sales, I assume, but we need to understand how would we take 100 items, right, and just make it travel from Ukraine to Poland, for example. So we need to calculate what will be our expenses, how much it will cost, and how we will get our money on our bank account. So we will purchase next amount of fabric, and materials. So until we will not solve these issues, how to work with overseas, we would not start to make expansion. That's it. And regarding our promo channels, so we are, if we would like to get customers, I suppose we would also use first like social networks, social media, and some search advertisement, Google, and what we use, Bing, all this stuff on the first time. And we have a question about you're a great company, but have you got any fails? If I understand correct.
Yeah, fails probably. Have you had any, failures?
Failures, right? Sure, we have different type of issues. We had, I would not say fail, but we have different, for example, problem with fabric producers. So when we order new color, we're choosing from like a catalog list, right? And sometimes it might be like random color when you pick one color, but final result might be different. And this is sometimes might be big issue. So when you order a fabric, for 3 months further, and you get a big amount in your town, unpack it, and it's surprise, it's different color or some different texture. There is no way to put it back and return to China. So this is a big issue. Another thing, for example, what is connected with customers, we had one issues when zipper. So zipper was бракованный.
Bad quality.
Yes, but zipper was bad quality, some of them, and we had to change it to another, to apologize, to get item back, to repair it, and send again to fix the issues. It's also no one is protected from this because it's not our fault. We purchased these zippers, so we just replaced every item in our products.
Makes sense. Let's go. So Leonardo and Gabriel, you had very interesting questions, so I added you here to the panel. If you would like to ask your questions live, just unmute your microphone and go ahead. Leonardo, we see you. Would you like to ask that question live?
We have a question written.
Hi, guys.
Yes, go ahead, please. Leonardo?
What is the differentiation of your products in compare with another brands that make similar products of you?
So there are several students who ask that same question. So how are you different from your competition? And basically, what is your competitive advantage? Why should we buy your raincoats and not somebody else's?
Mm-hmm. It's hard to answer this question. Compare when people start compare with prices. Someone said, we have your item, for example, price $100, and you have some even known brands which is cost half of them. So it's hard to compare just with some other thing. You need to compare specific this type of raincoats with some specific another. So in our case, we would say that our fabric will guarantee your protection from the water. It will keep you warm. So we know that we use the branded heat insulation. So we know that this is insulation is like certificated. It is used on NASA and other different companies. So we are sure that we are using the best quality as we can find. And all this and everything else, we know that currently we're getting the best thing we can find and test it ourselves. So there is no another explanation except we're trying to do the best and test on ourselves, and we are not searching for for the lowest price.
Right.
So it might sound a little bit messy, but the final answer is that we're producing and testing it on ourselves, so we are sure in our quality. And as we are still small business, we need to keep our eye on this, and we are not able to get into price war.
Right. Erwin, you had a question. Please go ahead if you would like to unmute your microphone. Just don't talk and drive. You seem to be in a car.
Well, I'm sitting still.
Okay.
So I came in late on this webinar. One of my questions is it does pertain to the material. I have about 6 years experience as a postal carrier, and so I've used our issued raincoats, and I was wondering, how does your product kind of combat the issue of, even in the elements, being in the rain, how does it keep you dry? What are you guys doing as far as a product to combat that that issue? Because that was always an issue for me, being in the rain for extended periods of time. At some point, you came to the realization that it was almost kind of pointless to wear the raincoat.
So when you
itself.
not just run from a house to a car, but have to spend hours and hours outside, right?
Yes, sir. That's right.
Huh. So do you think your coats can withstand a rainy weather for a longer time?
Well, that was kind of the point. Is that even so? The issue is that we had several different types. We had ones that were sort of a vinyl kind of just the typical raincoat. They didn't breathe very well. Okay, so what would happen
And you have
is,
to be moving all the time, right? So you start sweating.
that's right. Yeah, you start sweating. So then we had ones that were Gore-Tex. So the Gore-Tex were lighter, and they were good, but continuous time in these elements, eventually, combined with physical activity, you're going to sweat. And so I'm not sure that there is an answer, but I'm just kind of curious as to your products, since we're going to be working together, possibly, of what you guys have thought about in that event. Because I mean, raincoats are not used momentarily. Sometimes they're used for extended periods of time and different levels of activity, obviously.
Mm-hmm. That's a very good question. I don't know. So do you guys think your raincoats can be used in rain for an extended period of time, especially if it's somebody who is actively like a postman who is always moving and standing in rain for hours?
I mean, it would it would keep the rain off of you, but the issue was that the moisture buildup, because of the surfaces not being very very appropriate in, I guess, in breathing, for lack of better phrasing,
Right.
it was kind of the issue. So keeping the rain off, yes. The connections or the edges that you would use, we would have buttons, little metal pieces that would kind of just close it up, and sometimes that would still allow water to come in. So that was sort of the other question I had, was even if your raincoats don't breathe very well, how do you prevent penetration in the areas that are exposed, like the sleeves, the zipper button, etc. And any other areas that were kind of exposed because they have to be.
Sure. First of all, if you will take like two edges of this issue to protect the person who is constantly walking under the rain, yeah. And second, it's like urban streetwear, when you just need to be protected for 5 minutes when you need to hide somewhere. So our product, I would say, more further from the middle to the first point. So the idea is that you will be protected from the rain, sure, during the long term. It might be not 10 hours, of course, but during 2-3 hours, absolutely tested, you can walk under the rain. And second thing is our all, as you said, metal things and zippers. It's also like, in the end, it's hidden. It's covered with the fabric. All this things that makes you customize this wear for you. It's also hidden. So in the end, it's tested that you will be not. Yeah, you can see this thing. It's still covered. In the end, it's covered under the fabric. So you're protected from directly getting water on your things. So when we tested this thing, you put it on, go under the big rain, so you are very comfortable. And the second thing, that it's also warm. It's hard to find some balance when you are wearing it during basically all day. You can walk to the city to travel somewhere. But when rain starts, you will be definitely protected during some hours. And another thing, it's also connected with the season. So we have like our smallest, simplest product. It's like packing into the small pocket. It's very thin. So when you're walking in your just t-shirt and rain starts, you quick put it off, wear it, and of course, in this scene, it's mostly, I don't know how to call it, like feels like plastic. When you wear it on, you will be protected, but it's not so comfortable to walk during hours. You will just protect yourself for getting wet. We have next product. It's had some some insulation. It's not just as minimum as possible. So it's not only protecting, also making you feel warmer. And our different products suitable for different situation. So of course, if you will go to, I don't know, to tropic forest and to get this tropic rain, it will be not comfortable if you will choose a different raincoat. But to get you wet, it will solve your issues.
So
we have
how many different products do you have?
Currently, four different products.
Okay.
Mm-hmm. All right, so we have a bunch of questions and we have a bunch of people who raised their hand. So I see Margarita and I see Ali. Would you like to ask your questions quickly? And then we'll just go in a blitz because we have like 20 questions in the comments and email that we need to answer. Ali, Margarita, would you like to ask your questions now?
No questions now.
Okay, all right. Ali, did you want to?
So I'm not sure if this has come up yet or not, but my group noticed that there wasn't a lot of information about the actual fabrics that are used in the raincoats on your site. So we were wondering if you could talk a bit about that. So like what kind of fabrics that you do use, that sort of thing. If this is something you consider a trade secret, like we'll understand that.
So the names of the fabrics and the types of the fabrics that you use.
Yeah, that kind of stuff.
Mm-hmm. I think we lost your sound. Yeah. Hello?
Hello? Yes?
Yes. So no, Ali, we hear you, but we don't hear our speakers for some reason.
Oh, okay. Sorry.
Hello? Is that just? Oh, yeah. Okay. Now we hear you. Yes, please go ahead.
Okay. So we use membrane fabric. It's, as we said, it's breathable and waterproof. It's polyester and nylon fabric.
All right. Well, let me switch to the question answer. We have a few that we need to answer quickly. One, why don't you use online fashion platforms? And I think the question is about Amazon or eBay platforms like this, so where they will handle all the payments for you and you don't have to sell directly. Have you considered using like Amazon, eBay, AliExpress, those kinds of platforms?
Sure, but still, we are not solving our two issues: how to deliver our items to Amazon, to their
right, distribution centers.
Yeah, and they will take payments from the final customers, but still, we have no idea how to get payments from Amazon to our company in Ukraine.
Something's telling me it's not as difficult as you may think. I mean, I know millions of companies, in fact, use Amazon, eBay, Alibaba, or AliExpress, and there must be a way to do it. So I guess if the students can do some research for you and get those answers, probably it will work.
As far as I know from our friends, you can find out some ways to sell your items, for example, on Fiverr or some other platform. Exceeds some amount, because when you're under $100 per month, you can use Payoneer or all the stuff. If a payment is bigger, you will definitely get attention from the tax service or others. So it's not legal to just take money from overseas in Ukraine. So,
Elizabeth Gatanj asks about your major types of clients. Do you primarily sell to stores or to individual buyers?
good question. I would say, yeah, in the end, our purchases is about half, 50%. But our typical clients, we should mention our core audience, right? It's young people who like to travel, who like to dress comfortable, who like bright colors, to be different, to not afraid to make some experiments with clothes. So we're looking more for younger audience.
Andres Escobar also asks, yes, what is your target audience? So obviously you can sell through the stores or you can sell to individual buyers, but what audience do you target?
That's
is it younger people, or it doesn't matter, or is it children?
Mostly our buyers are younger people.
Mm-hmm. Now, there are a bunch of questions, and I see Irvin raised his hand, but a bunch of questions about specific areas. Like, for example, Theodore Green asks if Poland is your market. Then somebody asked, Toko is asking if you would be selling your products in India if there was an order. Then somebody asked about the anonymous RMD, so asked if you would be willing to sell your product in in the Caribbean region. I sort of suspect that you would be willing to sell anywhere, but do you have any preferences about the geography? So what are the countries that you're most interested in?
Sure, no preferences, just considering logistics costs, all the stuff, how if you will talk about deliver 1 million of items to us, we would be not able to produce this amount, even if you would say that in this case, logistic costs will be very few per item. Yeah. So we have no idea how to get our items to Caribbeans.
Well, I'm sure if it's a big order, there will be a way to do it. So as long as there is a contract, I'm sure you'll be able to fulfill it. Andres and Irving, you guys raise your hands. Did you want to ask questions? Go ahead.
Yes. I don't mean to jump in. If he wanted to go first, he can.
Well, go ahead, Irvin, since you started talking, and then Andres will be the next.
Okay. Well, one question is, what, do you have an idea or a projected number of orders that you could fill? Such as you mentioned 1 million orders. I mean, what's the capacity that you guys can foresee, not being an issue? First question.
Very good question. Very good question. Yeah. What is the capacity that you reasonably can fulfill? Like, for example, Correct. If Irvin went to his previous employer, the U.S. Postal Services, and they said, sure, we want to buy, I don't know how many postmen you have, but probably it's in thousands, tens of thousands around the country. So would you
about 250,000?
250,000. So would you be able to fulfill an order like this?
Sure. The situation is like this. When we had, for example, can you hear us?
Yes. Go ahead.
Sure. When we had 100 items per season, we was able to produce it by ourselves. When demand started to exceed our capacity, first of all we started to scale. And if we would see that demand is stable on this amount, we would or scale enough, so we know how to do this, we could be able to scale. Or I suppose on the first time, we would just use some outsourcers, some third-party producers in our town to produce this first amount of items to sell for some order. Sure, we would have to still to make this quality control, but if so the final answer is, I think we will be able to scale to any amount.
Maybe find some subcontractors, partners to make the quality. Yeah. Andres, you had a question, please go ahead. And we have only like literally 3 minutes left perhaps because we have another webinar in 10 minutes. But let's address a few more questions. So Andres, please go ahead.
Okay, can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Well, I have a couple of questions. I kind of understood that part of your production was done in China, is that right?
The fabrics are from
only
China.
the fabrics. Now, taking into account that maybe reaching out to those distribution centers like Alibaba, AliExpress, and other things, have you considered doing the production in China, knowing that you have the fabrics there and you could like reach to those? Yeah, I mean,
So you mean the actual production, actual manufacturing, right?
yeah, exactly. That's one. And the other one, you said that, young people that like to travel. Do you have any specific like digital marketing strategies that when you put like on the Facebook, Instagram, and maybe even Google with AdWords, that you are segmenting the people according to certain parameters? I don't know if you may have differentiation factors for the public as the kind of customers that you're trying to reach.
Yeah, I think we addressed that last question, but maybe you can say a little bit more about your interest and willingness to relocate your production to China, for example.
I think, to just throw it to China, but I'm sure that we would lost all our preferences. We would not be able to make such good quality control. We would not be able to use because all other things. All accessories, mostly all accessories, is made in Europe. So it would be another challenge, to use it, for example, in Italy or in Poland, into the China and put this because so it's. I'm not sure it's stable, and we would not like to get to lose control of the final final result.
Yeah. I would like to ask two more questions that came by email, and since we're almost out of time, so question one, in fact, two students asked, so if we understand correctly, the two sisters, you are the owners of the company, right? And so there is a question, is it difficult to be an entrepreneur in general, and especially a woman entrepreneur? And so what is the biggest challenge of your job as a business owner?
Go on.
Seems to be a difficult question.
It's hard to be an entrepreneur in Ukraine because we have lots of bureaucratic like a paperwork, we need to make some reports, and it's a complicated thing. And another thing that in Ukraine it's hard to find a quality fabric and all those accessories. So it was a long time when we find all those things. As for being a woman as an entrepreneur, we has the good support of our husbands, of our father, so it's not a problem. And there are both of us, we support each other. And as Natalia is a designer, I am like accounting and different financial problems I resolve. So we're a good team.
And if I can ask one more question, it came from Aurora Wilkes. She says she's a student and she wants to have her own business in a few years. What advice would you give to her at this time? So what does she need to do now to become a good, successful businesswoman in a few years?
I think she needs to try and to work hard, and everything will be good.
Work hard. That's a simple secret. Anyway, I think we need to stop here. As I said, we have another webinar in a few minutes, but all of you students, if you have questions, you can always send them to us and we will forward them to the company. So the email is always the best way to communicate, and we usually can answer the questions within a day or two. So no worries there. And yes, good luck with the challenge. Any closing remarks? Any last minute advice to the students? Anything else that you would like to say? All right. Okay. Well, thank you so much. Really appreciate your help. So, and good luck. So what will happen next is in about 2 weeks, we will have the reports from the early track. And as we said, we have a few dozen teams working on your challenge in the early track. Then it will be very quiet for about 8 weeks. And then in early May, we will have the reports from the late track. And so I truly hope that there will be many interesting ideas, and hopefully students will find a way to solve your payment and logistics issues, because it is a wonderful product, and it's a shame that the world cannot buy it because of those logistical and bureaucratic obstacles. So let's see how it goes. All right, well, thank you so much. And I do see a lot of questions from students that we could not answer. I will probably send the summary back to the company and ask them to answer by email and then share with all of you. So Darren, Margarita, I do see your comments and questions, and everybody else, Leonardo. So we will try to answer them by email. Thank you.